Okay, folks, strap yourselves in because this deep dive is might get a little heated. We're going to be taking a look at an article about a pretty intense debate that happened on The View.
Oh boy, sounds juicy.
It really is. And you know what? The funny thing is, this whole thing was sparked by, well, no surprise here, Donald Trump being elected president again.
Again, you've got to be kidding me.
Apparently not. And so this article, it dives into this episode of The View where things got really interesting. Let me set the stage a bit. So Trump, picks his cabinet and all. And for Secretary of Education, he chooses Linda McMahon. And if that name sounds familiar, well, she's the former co-founder of WWE.
WWE, the wrestling folks.
Yeah, you got it. So, that choice alone raised some eyebrows.
Right.
But what really got the fire going was this whole debate about school vouchers that erupted between two of the co-hosts, Sunny Hostin and Alyssa Farrah Griffin.
School vouchers. Now that's a topic that always gets people riled up. I can see why this episode got so heated.
Totally. And, it got so intense that Whoopi Goldberg actually had to step in and cut to a commercial break just to let everyone cool down for a minute.
Wow, so this is going to be good. Let's dive in, I guess.
All right. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of this debate, maybe we should take a step back for a second and explain what school vouchers actually are, just for anyone who might not be familiar with them.
Absolutely. So in a nutshell, school vouchers are basically like these government-funded certificates that parents can use to pay for their kids' tuition at private schools.
Oh, okay. So it's like instead of sending your kid to public school, you can use this voucher to send them to a private school.
Exactly. The whole idea behind it is to give parents more choices when it comes to their kids' education.
Yeah.
But as you can imagine, it's a super controversial issue.
I bet. So what was Sunny Hostin's take on this whole voucher thing?
Well, Hostin was very much against school vouchers. Her main argument was that these vouchers actually end up benefiting wealthier families the most. Well, think about it. Wealthier families are the ones who are already more likely to be able to afford sending their kids to private school, right?
That makes sense.
So Hostin was saying that a lot of the families using these vouchers were already sending their kids to private school anyway, which means the vouchers aren't really doing much to help low-income families who couldn't afford private school in the first place.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
And Hostin's other big concern was the impact that vouchers have on public schools.
Right, because the money's going to private schools instead.
Exactly. She argued that when public funds get diverted to private schools through these vouchers, it basically drains resources from the public school system.
Right.
And that can end up making the inequalities that already exist in the education system even worse.
Yeah. Especially when you consider that a lot of public schools are already struggling with funding as it is.
Absolutely. So Hostin's argument was basically that vouchers don't really solve the problem. They just kind of shift the money around.
Okay. So what about Alyssa Farrah Griffin? Did she have anything to say about all this?
Oh, yeah. She definitely did. But it sounds like she felt like she wasn't really given the chance to fully express her views. She kept saying that she wanted to have a more balanced conversation,
Meaning she felt like Sunny was dominating the discussion.
Right. From what the article says, Griffin felt like Hostin just wasn't letting her speak and that the whole thing was becoming a one-sided argument.
So
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's when things started to get a little tense.
Yeah, that's when the fireworks started. It seems like both Hostin and Griffin started talking over each other, neither one willing to back down.
Oh, boy.
And the article describes this whole scene where they're just going back and forth, and it gets to the point where nobody can even understand what's being said anymore. And that's when Whoopi steps in.
To try and regain control.
Exactly. She's like, all right, everyone calm down, and calls a commercial break. The article quotes her saying, nobody can figure out what's being said here right now.
It sounds like she was about ready to pull her hair out.
I know, right? But after the break, things seemed to calm down a bit. Whoopi kind of acknowledged that having different opinions can lead to things getting a little messy, but she encouraged everyone to try and keep the discussion civil.
Which I guess is kind of the point of a show like The View, right? To have these discussions even if they get heated.
Yeah, it's about having these conversations even when they're tough. So even though this particular debate got a little out of hand, I think it does bring up some really important questions about educational opportunity and equity.
Absolutely. This whole voucher debate, it really forces us to think about how we define educational opportunity as a society. Does it just mean having more choices? Or does it also mean making sure that all students, no matter their background, have access to a good education?
That's a really good question, and I think it's something that we need to be talking about more as a society.
For sure. So this whole thing on The View, it might have been about this specific case of Trump and his cabinet picks and the drama on the show, but it really reflects a much bigger discussion that's happening in our country right now.
It does. It makes you think about what other solutions are out there besides vouchers,
Right.
If we want to create a more equitable education system for everyone, what are the ways we can do that?
That's the million-dollar question. And you know what else I think is important?
What's that?
Figuring out how to have these really important conversations about these complex issues in a way that's productive and respectful, even when people have really strong feelings about it.
You got it.
Yeah,
It's about finding a way to disagree without being disagreeable.
exactly.
Huh.
Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, right? We want what's best for our kids and for our country.
Absolutely. We just might have different ideas about how to get there.
And that's okay. It's okay to have those differences. What's not okay is letting those differences tear us apart.
Well said. And I think that's a great place to leave it for this deep dive.
Yeah, I think so too. Thanks for joining me today for this lively discussion.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
And to all our listeners out there, keep those brains working. And remember, it's okay to disagree. Just do it respectfully. And who knows, maybe we'll find some solutions together.
I like that. Let's do it.
All right. That's a wrap for today.
Sure.
Until next time, folks, keep thinking, keep learning, and keep the conversation going.
Bye, everyone.